What's up, Justin?
Back in the lab. How are you, bud?
Yeah, good. Sorry for the delay for all our fans out there that have been
Yeah,
anxiously anticipating the next episode.
indeed. There are more than we thought. So
Yeah,
that's
and it was good to hear because y'all hung out at the fraternity house with Hunter and his buddies, and they had mentioned us talking about stuff. And really, that's our audience, right? I mean, I'm our audience. You're our audience too, because we're both trying to learn as we do this together. But from past episodes, what we've really talked about is like things where we could have made other hurdles and we chose not to. And and they're still at that cusp of nothing's impossible right now.
yeah, indeed.
When you're 18 to 22, just turned 21, it's like there's no set thing that says your time is up.
Yeah.
And when you're almost 50, there's times that's up.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that, uh, Gary V, who a lot of people see online, talks about this a lot, which is um, to your point, there is a beautiful golden age of being young where you have this theoretical everything in front of you, right? And that's as daunting as being 50 or 60 or 70 and having less in front of you. I think it's the same concern sort of reversed on itself. And people get paralyzed in both of those moments because they don't, what we're going to talk about tonight, which is they don't know what to do first. They don't know what to do next. They don't know what to do in the moment. And it's a beautiful thing. I think my boys have learned, or I've tried to say a lot. Um, you don't have to learn everything the hard way, right? And so if you get good at anticipating, if you get good at really structuring, calculating risks, which we'll talk a lot about tonight, um, it gets you closer to how important it is, or the fact that you're going to fail. That's okay. But what's next? And that doesn't matter. I think that doesn't matter what age group, which is why I think a lot of these topics reverberate through people, because there are people who need that message or this message at any age, literally up to 80 years old. Or 90 or 100, or, what am I going to do for breakfast is as important as what am I going to be when I grow up. I
Mhm.
really do think that, because the perspective of how important that is to you in that moment. So, yeah, man, good start.
Yeah, I mean, like get your pen and paper because I've got mine.
Yeah.
Because we talked briefly right before we start. I think this is definitely still one of my struggles. Um, I mean, even doing this, I I have a tendency of not wanting to look stupid. I want people to like me, and to get over a lot of these hurdles and to fail and learn is you've got to push past that. You got to be like, you're going to say things that a lot of people don't like, and you're going to mess up, and you're going to say the wrong thing, and you're going to say something completely wrong. Obviously, we don't have the ginormous fan base where we're getting a lot of DMs about, oh, this is this, but you could, um, and you have to roll with that. And that's with any of these decisions that you're going to make, is you have to be learn from your failures and moving forward. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about, dealing with the risk benefit and how to negotiate that and understanding you're not going to win every time.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Do you feel more comfortable in episode 6 or 7 or whatever this is than you did in episode -1?
Yeah, Absolutely.
Or are you less concerned about what's going to come up on the chat board, or what people are going to say at work, or what
I,
people you
you know,
know are going to say? Has that
on my Instagram page, I put out those little walking talking videos. I mean, I haven't done one in a while, because I hadn't just thought of good topics to talk about myself. But I was going to say one, but my wife thought it was going to be really stupid while we're at the beach, but I should have done it anyway. But it's kind of like if you watch them, you can tell how more comfortable I am as you go through them,
yeah,
to where I get more, I don't know, I'm not as robotic in those first few. I'm pretty robotic, and that's just learning and getting more comfortable with what we're doing. I never thought I would like to do this, but with my job, we started doing some of this, and once you get going, it comes pretty easy
yeah,
for me. And that's why I wanted to do this. But again, I couldn't jump into it myself because, for one, I feel like I'm a little bit of the meathead. Like I'm not as articulate as most people are. I don't have a way with words as some people do, but I just kind of flow with it, and I feel like I'm more of the everyday guy
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, so stepping out of your comfort zone is a big piece of this. It's a big piece of taking risk, which is understanding what your comfort zones are, and those are based on past experiences. And so comfort zones are built based on reactions you've had from the past. This is for me, right? And so I you put yourself in these lanes because you don't want to get out of them because you've experienced just left, right? I don't want to dress a certain way because the last time I did, I got made fun of. I don't want to. I don't want to speak really. I don't want to try this new thing because the last time I did, people said, "Why are you doing that?" And that didn't make me feel good. And so we create these lanes for ourselves that are they're cages, in my opinion, because the lanes are those experiences. And once you say, I don't care what anybody thinks about the way I dress or the way I speak, now it becomes all these amazing things that you can experience and do and fail at. So let's talk about that for just a second. Because
Yeah,
failure is 100% part of growth. It's 100% part of being great. It's 100% part of learning. Um, what is something you think about? Um, and I don't even know how to put this. I think it's part of this is I don't. I also don't like to dwell on failures insofar as there's failures. And so let me put it this way: what's something you've really you didn't just learn right off the rip, or you weren't amazing at perfectly, but you learned a hard lesson from, or learned an easy lesson from. Is there anything that comes to mind?
yeah. Almost got married one time.
Yeah, big one. Listen, so
Learned
so
big
I
lessons.
yeah, so that's one that I was gonna say out loud for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
and boy, did I learn a lot, and dug my head out of that. Learned a lot of financial stuff during that time too, and I learned what I did not want, and I was learned that I was looking for the wrong thing.
sure, what you deserved was different than that experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a big piece of all of this is that knowing you deserve more than even the position you've put yourself in. Because I have certainly, this is a topic that I'm always passionate about, because I have put myself in a lot of bad situations chasing things, chasing financial goals, chasing relationship goals, chasing job goals that weren't necessarily there or not. But you chase something and then you have to back up a little bit and realize I deserve something different. Because better is relative.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because
And better's
better
different for everybody.
and better is, and it implies some sort of system that somebody else has to value. And I'm convinced what I deserve is the only person that gets to determine that is me. That is the number one thing that changed my whole perspective. What I make, what I have in my bank account when I die, the way I live, what car I drive, how I dress, how fit I am or not, the people I hang around me, how people talk to me. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But that was determined, I determined that new gauge, that value proposition was determined by me only.
How did you figure that out?
A lot of that was trying to chase what others, whether it be social media, whether it be people that I worked with, to say, this is what success looks like.
So you were
Based
letting somebody else determine
based
that.
on their own value proposition,
Hmm.
based on their own set of experiences, based on their own life experiences. And so if you listen to that advice, and there are a few people in your life where you have to, you should take that advice, right? And you should say, but if they're not directing you to say, what do you want out of this situation? What do you feel those conversations should look like? What makes you comfortable living? Then it's crazy, right? Because I don't want to live in a mansion on the beach in Florida. One, because I don't want to live in Florida. Two, because I know what that's going to take and what I'm going to have to sacrifice to get there at that point. If somebody just handed it to me, sure. But again, I understood what the value proposition was. So if I chase something that someone else determines for me as my ideal life or my ideal partner or my ideal whatever it is, then I'm already off base. And this
And
goes
I
for
think,
a million different versions of that.
and I think we've we're all doing that all the time.
Yes.
All of us.
Yes.
Like, I mean, there's some people that have a better mindset from the beginning to where their material things are just insignificant to them. And those people I envy a little bit, to where, like, who doesn't want a cool car, right? Who doesn't want the nice pretty house on the hill or whatever your picture is? And then one thing is when you go through things and you have kids and all these other things, it's like other things do become more important than that. And then it's like, where does this all line up, and what pile do you put these things in?
Yeah.
um
You also,
eh,
so all along that path, though, Bo, you had to take risks. Now think about that thing that you just talked about, right? A relationship that didn't turn out the way you expected it to. You had to take a risk to get into it, first of all. Right? You had to take a risk with yourself. Every relationship requires risk. It requires you to put yourself out there. It requires you to put your finances and your livelihood and your self-worth and your peace of mind at risk. And that's, I think, a great thing if you have the understanding of where people talk a lot about boundaries. And I'll be honest with you, it ends up pissing me off sometimes because people use boundaries as this all-encompassing, just respect my boundaries. Well, which I think you should have your own
but
boundaries.
if my boundary doesn't end there.
That's right. That's right. And so I think that's a real. You got to really understand what that looks like, and then you had to take the risk to say, the next risk that you took in that situation is to say, No matter what everybody's going to think about me right now, no matter what, because I planned out all these things, right? I had all these plans of the next 2 months and 2 years and 2 decades. And now those things aren't going to happen. What's everybody going to think? Well, you had to take a huge risk to say, what? My peace is more important. The end goal, and you did this, I think, without even recognizing it.
Oh, I'm sure. I
But
was
those
I wasn't
decisions.
mature enough to know that.
You made those decisions because you thought this is, and this is what risk, you sort of made a calculated risk in the opposite direction to say, my peace of mind long term is not worth the mess that this is going to make for the next little bit. But that's what everything's about. Thinking about it in those ways. And then you had to take a risk in your next relationship. And you had to take it, and there was things loaded on top of that. And so so financial decisions. You have to say, I see a goal, even a short goal ahead, and I'm willing to make a little bit of a mess of it here because I know what I deserve moving forward. Like you can put this exact conversation into anything that you want and desire. And I know that seems really kitschy. I'm not trying to do a self-help book ish,
No,
but
but we kind of are.
it
But
but it
I get
worked.
what you're saying is like where if you're wanting to do something, any kind of financial thing, whether it's saving a bunch of money or it's going to spend a bunch of money to make money or something like that. Either way, like say, hey, um, went to the kids. Hey, we're not going to do Christmas this year because mom and dad want to pay off a bunch of debt, and we don't have enough money to do this, 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 and this. So we're going to do this. Like people would say, "What are y'all doing? You're not going to give the kids any Christmas," or vice versa. We're going to take all the equity out of our house and borrow a ton of money and go throw it at this because I think this is going to work. So both of
Yes.
those are messy, and
Yes.
both of those people would be like, "You're insane."
Correct. Because those people have created what we talked about before. Their lanes say if the kids are unhappy, if we don't have Christmas, if the house payment isn't paid exactly the way it's supposed to, if I don't have a 30-year mortgage, if. And so they stay right here. And listen, that's a super, like, if you do this, that's super comfortable. It's warm, it's inviting. I can't break out of it, I can't fall. Like,
But
it,
you also look very uncomfortable.
it's exact. So that's the way I see it, which is like, get me out of this freaking bird cage because I'm about to lose it. But again, that's through practice. And so part of that is, so calculated risks are different than um, just plain risks. Because people think of risks as just there's a bad connotation to it, period. No matter what kind of risk you're taking. And to me, everything is a risk. Keeping in a
Yeah,
30-year
it's a
mortgage is
calculated risk to go get in the car.
so all those things can be. It's a risk to go into the Air Force and not go to college because that's what you're supposed to do, right? It's a risk to take a night job. It's a risk to leave that steady night job to go to the organization that you're at now. It's a risk. Like I think you've
But
unknowingly,
those are more calculated.
they are, but that's what they all should be. And so even when I bought flips on houses, right? So I did that for a really long time. I'm buying a piece of property that is, I only can see so much. I can't see in between the walls, but I understand the market. I understand what I know I can sell it for theoretically if I do the right things. I've done my research on how much a roof costs and how much plumbing costs. Like so, but there's not a risk I take that I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't. There's no. But again, that's a thinker in me because I think the people that say I don't know get frozen in time. So if you think about the times in your life that you did nothing, and everybody's different here, but I'm going to ask you this question: in those times where you did nothing, were you thinking more or were you thinking less? So like
Probably
I
two, probably more. Analysis, paralysis by analysis,
okay,
probably.
so you're that kind of person. And that's something Lee and I talked about tonight, which was you can get yourself into a place. So when I begin to think that much, that's a trigger for me to do something. And most people, that's a trigger to slow down and figure it all out again. And the problem is you figured it out 2,700 times already. You've gotten your answer. You've asked your neighbor who's solidified that answer. You've asked the other neighbor who said, no, I would never do that. You asked the dog and they said, whatever, as long as you feed me. You asked your wife and she said, it doesn't matter. I just want you to be happy. You've come to the conclusion 1,900 times before that. There's something that keeps you from making the jump. And so for you, what do you think that is? And then I'll tell you what it's been for me. What do you think it is that, and it doesn't even have to be a specific example. When you know, because I think you're a thinker, right? You've thought about this a million times. You've talked to people. You know it's the quote right thing to do. You know it's going to be messy. What keeps you from the final leap?
I think the probably like the stability that we have and what falls on the shoulders of tipping that stability from one side to the other. And is it going to sink or swim?
Okay, yeah.
And that's a lot riding on that.
It is. There's a lot of other people that are responsible or that have repercussions for your decisions, right? And so things that you do, so the calculation becomes exponentially more difficult when you have family and and like you said, I think a huge one for people is I don't want to rock the boat. This
Hmm.
boat
Hmm.
it's taking on water, or we're all sitting in a we got a butt full of water, but that's better than swimming. It's better than the boat sinking. And what you don't say on the other side is it better than winning? Whatever the winning
Yeah.
is. And then you sort of get to what does winning mean? What does it look like when you succeed at that same thing that I just said to you and you have pictured in your mind? And this is an example for everybody to do. As they listen to this, everybody's going to have their own example. What's keeping me from it? And then you say, well, I know what this thing is. And then you name that. And then you say, okay, what does it look like when you succeed at that thing? Not the you buy the whole neighborhood goal. Let's keep that for the next minute. The thing that you talk about, you want to take this risks to do. What does it look like for you then? What does it look like for your family? What does it look like to those same people who, right? And so they're here now, and you think if you quote unquote fail, they go to here, their stability goes to here. If you win at this, does their stability go to here? Does it go back to normal? Or does it go here? Or does it go way up here? Those are the things you can't answer for people. But to me, that's the calculation.
I guess another caveat to the stability part of it is that stability that you're talking about is multifactorial. It's not just money. It's not just um your peace. It's not just how you get to live. It's not happy and unhappy. It's the whole thing. Because and then which one of those characteristics outweighs the other as well?
Yeah. So, and
Like
like go
if your
back to what
stability is like
we just talked about.
it's a
The
hard
good
thing
news,
to
you
yeah.
only you get to decide that variable, and your wife, and to some minor degree, hear this, everybody hear this the right way. To some tiny degree, your kids, tiny degree, because
Yeah.
they
And
also
even that's a
go.
whole different thing because if you're 20 times happier and you may have a little bit less money or whatever the other less may be, they're probably going to be happier if you're happier.
Yes, 100%. And so there's all those calculated risks, and again at every age. So you talked about this before. What's important to Hunter at 21 and beginning a life, and what's important to Bryson as a freshman, and what's important to your daughters at in first grade, those risk tolerances change. And so what's interesting is to watch people grow, and as they take baby risks and both win and lose, I think what they realize is I know where I am now on what I can tolerate. And I think that's an important part to mix. Please don't go out and sell your house to invest in a new AI company started by your neighbor. This is my opinion. And I'm a risky guy, right? And so that's not your first step. The first step is whatever. And I think, again, becoming a subject matter expert, quote unquote, in the field is important for whatever risk you're going to do. The internet is filled with resources. Now,
Yeah.
caveat, it's filled with resources all over the place. So I can
You got to
read
figure out
what's
what
real,
people are selling you stuff.
what's real, what are they selling, what am I going to do? But again, all those sort of calculated risks allow you to make a small step into a big move. So small, and sometimes people just need big moves. A big move is going to Marine Corps boot camp. That's a big move because nothing else would have worked. There's no small step that would have created an action in my life that would have allowed me to be more successful moving forward. There is no small step in ending a relationship
No.
at the time in which you ended it, because baby steps would have allowed for years or decades of mess. Same thing for Marine Corps boot camp. Same thing for going to the getting your nursing degree. There's sometimes big moves are required. So you got to understand what those are. And again, if you fail at those things, what's really the risk? I think that's also the side, right? So if you don't,
And
so what happens then?
I think I'm just going to go back just a little bit because since we talked about the kids a little bit, is when we kind of used the boat analogy. Is it going to tip the boat? Um, I would say this for them, their boat's smaller but agile and steady. Like their tips, they can recover easier. Our boats are big and unstable and move, and slight twitches of the wheel moves it a lot more. Really hard to recover from waves. So and that's a little bit of like if there's opportunities when you're younger of huh, that sounds interesting, but may be hard, do it.
Sure. Yeah. Also,
Because there will and you'll learn from that whether you fail or not. And
yeah,
it's
it's
just like
beautiful.
school. If
Yeah.
school's your thing, you go to school and you fail, you learned.
What a great analogy, though, too, because what happens when you tip over a canoe? You tip it right back over and hop right back in and keep paddling.
Yeah,
What
just pull
happens when
yourself
you're in
up.
a kayak and you flip that thing over, which is going to happen because the breeze blows too hard? You get right back in that thing and paddle a different direction. It's a perfect analogy. And so people are afraid to
You
do
tip over
that.
that houseboat, it's in trouble.
Yeah, it really is for a hot minute, but also not impossible. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I think the fear of we talked about this week. My biggest fear in any of this, you talked about your fear being people not liking you and worried about what people thought or how you spoke
And
or
I guess not taking people down the right path of what I'm trying to give people information about.
so that's it.
I
So
want to
why?
take them down the right path.
So if you believe it, why does it matter?
I don't know. I want people to feel better about if they choose to do the things that I'm asking them to do on a professional basis with nutrition, exercise, supplements, things like that.
Will it change your
And do
will it
what
change
now?
your
Sorry.
advice based on what they whether because there's a lot of this stuff that people aren't gonna want to do or aren't gonna believe is
Oh
true
yeah.
or aren't gonna. I don't think it's gonna. I think the nice part about it is, and I think as you begin to talk it out, you care, but also it isn't gonna change the way you talk about it, is it?
No, no, not really, because I'm pretty passionate about what I'm learning and what I get to do and what 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 I've seen it do and the people that have kind of taken some strides when they come in and how much better they feel. Again, we've talked about how it makes me happy for them. Because and I may have had a small role in just giving them that information. And I get that makes me happy in what I do.
Sure.
And that's my reward, the risk reward thing. It's like and that's I guess me taking the risk of stepping out and be like, hey, this is what you've been told your whole life. Let me just say this, it's wrong. And this is what I believe, and try this, and they do it, and it works.
Yeah, which is an amazing place to be. So I think if you begin to change that concept of it's not really a risk. It's a lot more reward than it is risk. The risk is people not taking the advice. The risk is not reaching enough people. But there's no that risk has become a lot more reward than it is risk. And to me, that's the best kind of risk. You jump into those and you start feeling that kind of capacity, then you took the right risk. But it's the same thing. So like failing small, which I've heard recently, right? Which
Yeah,
is don't
I like
don't
that.
don't fail. So let failure become a part of the beautiful space that you live in, because
I like
it
that.
really is a wonderful thing. But fail small. Don't fail so much that you crush your entire existence and then you can never get up. I know the first house I flipped, I made very little money. Someone with half a brain or someone with any experience or me now could have made tens of thousands of dollars on that house. But you know what I knew in that? Because I negotiated on the front end and I knew someone and I kind of worked the thing that I knew well because I knew I couldn't lose money. There was really no way. I could have bought it the day I could have bought it day one. I could have sold it day two, paid commission, done all the things. freaked out and still not lost money. And so that's an example of saying, I may not, I'm going to fail here, but I'm going to fail a way in which I'm going to learn and also not put myself in a horrible position. It's like interviewing for jobs or applying to jobs. There is no failure there that can sink the ship more than it's where it's at. You cannot put a boat
Because you don't have
underwater.
the job.
And people are like, oh, well, what if they tell me no? Or what if they don't like me? Or what if the job's not available anymore? Well, then you're in exactly the place that you are right now. What if you win? When you win. So those are
And
tiny.
the more interviews you do, the better you get. I
So
mean,
just
it's the same example as doing this. The more we do of this, the better we get.
a few examples. I would argue if you're careful, if you're respectful, if you understand what you want out of things, especially at a young age, healthy relationships are okay too, right? And so having them and not having to get married on every time you buy a drink for a girl at a bar is a really healthy place to be. I, I wish I'd have told
Understanding you can just have a good time and you
I
don't.
tell my young girl that. You don't have to marry or fall in deeply in love with per se, or want to fix or try to fix you through. You can just enjoy another person. You can learn from somebody. You can learn about their experiences. You can learn what not to do. You can learn what not to say, and don't wreck everybody in the process, including yourself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be respectful of people, and this goes for everything. Be respectful of employers that you work for. Right? Because think about that. Do you think you could have gotten any of the jobs if you went to a job and said, this place sucks, which you may or may not have said, but then you set the place on fire? Do you think you would have gotten the next job?
Yeah. No. You don't want to leave a job and burn the place down. It's just not
So,
what you want to do.
and that's about all these
And
things, right?
also, if you wanted to do that, you shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right. But you take a risk, you understand its reward. So let's talk a little bit about this because I know this is a big one for both of us, and we lean on one side or another, or we lean toward different sides of this. Um, let's talk about research, learning about a topic, prepping a risk. We talked a little bit about it before. When is the time to jump? And let's bring it a little bit back to fitness and health, right? And so I don't know what I like to do. Should I ride on the treadmill?
So,
I you be on the treadmill? Should I run? Should I bike? Should I throw disc golf? There's these risks where you can sit in the bed on your iPad for 6 months and figure out what diet I'm going to do. When financially,
mhm.
relationship, fitness, when do you think it's time to make a step?
Now.
Mm, good answer.
And it can be a step in any direction. Because like I'm going to talk about that on a different podcast at work a little bit, how people do that in their health. Like I need to get this Apple Watch. I've got to get my Aura Ring or my Whoop thing. I got to get these supplements. I got to get this creatine. I've got to get these new running shoes. I've got to get my Lululemon, whatever, before I start to do anything. Well, guess what happens then? You never start because you're
And
finding reasons not to start.
and also they're afraid that if they say they're going to go on a diet or they tell their friends that they're going to lose weight and they don't have it
Mm-hmm.
all wrapped up into this beautiful present and bow for themselves. They don't have a timeline, and they don't say, hey, in 12 weeks I'm going to lose, and in 9 weeks I'm going to look like this, and blah. Like, I love setting big goals, but if you don't get up and put shoes on and walk to the mailbox, you will never lose 100 pounds. You will never make
No,
$1 million
you
if you don't do X, Y, and Z.
and I talked to you about that book I read, and it talks a little bit about that, and it's very interesting about like you're saying, fail small, but also set your reward small because you're going to get a hit and you're going to you're going to succeed in that, but then you've got to move it. You hit this point, move it up a little bit. You hit this point, move, because if you stay here, you're never going to get that hit back.
Yeah,
And you want that hit to come back every time because you get some dopamine. Bam, bam. You feel good. You feel good.
yeah, yeah. It's
And
a.
don't set the goals, like you were saying. Don't set the goals as I'm gonna have $20 million in 5 years. When you don't have any money in the bank,
I just don't buy
like you
it
got to
anymore.
set like, hey, let me get a little bit.
I just don't buy it anymore. I used to buy it. I think a young, dumb, aggressive me really believed a lot of that, and I think now that anything is possible, but you have to understand the law of attraction, which gets you there. B, what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And this is people to underestimate because that is part of the risk. The biggest risk that people don't want to take is the hard thing that they have to do. Even what you talked about earlier. I don't want to upset the boat. You know why? Because you have to have hard conversations with your partner and your kids and your coworkers and your neighbors and your friends. And when you say, hey, I'm going to set this goal of whatever it is, financial, relationship, blah, 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 but I'm not going to, like we talked about the other day, all these things come together. You know why people don't do it? I don't want to have a hard conversation. I don't want to do the hard thing. I don't want to put the beer down. I don't want to go on a walk at 5 in the morning. I don't want to do the hard thing because that's the risk. People will say it's because I don't want to lose my house.
Hmm.
Well, easy. You don't want to do anything that's hard between here and winning. You just don't. And that's what keeps people stuck every single freaking day. It's wild.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
100%.
oh,
When you talk about people not wanting to under like all the risk and things like that, where people like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, on the other hand, since I know you, if you came to me tomorrow and said, hey, putting the house on the market, I'm moving to Costa Rica, I'd be like, sounds about right.
sure.
Just because I know you, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think that's crazy.
Yes.
If I did that, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds like something you want to do, but have you checked with everybody else?
Yeah, and what's that look like, right? And so because I think what a part of that is what people
Hmm.
know about me is that I didn't wake up that morning and decide to do it. I had thought about it for so long, and then that last morning I woke up and said, I'm not going to think about this anymore. I will not let this take over my breakfast one more day because it's the right thing to do because now I know. This is what the hard thing for kids is, and we'll kind of end on this and adults alike. Um, that came
You're kind of
from the
breaking up there.
experience of failing. That like knowing that I'm going to do this thing, but kids have to, like, younger people, 10, 20, have to jump
It's
early.
breaking up.
Is it? Um, so we may just end it here, but this is where we um
Hmm.
hold on, let me break for just a
Oh,
second. So
we failed.
I'm gonna let it come back in and then I'll edit it out. You hear me?
Please. Okay.
Okay. So
Sorry.
I can edit this back in.
Sorry.
No, it's no worries. I don't. It may be mine too. Um. So listen. So we'll wrap it up. And here's what I would say to anybody listening. And I don't. Maybe you're and I am the same in the same boat. Is what I would tell everybody. Um. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. And well, I think what I'm waiting for now is for me is to start writing down things of like who I want to be, who am I, and how what are my wants, what are my needs, and how do I get there?
Beautiful.
And and I've got like well, I'm just texting you the other day. It's like that's what I want to. That's what I got to start doing. Is like how do you start? And I got to start writing things down every day and trying to learn more about me rather than just trying to make the next step, make the next step, make this next step.
Because you've
Um,
done it with your body.
or
You've
trying
done,
to.
you've done it with your mind a lot. And so, I think those things add on each other because when you start in either direction, you start with your mind, you start with your body, you start with them in congruence. I think it's probably helped your relationships, plural S, in every direction. And you can add every layer of that: parents, coworkers, family, friends, not so good friends, people in the line at Waggles. All those things are interconnected, but it's the same process no matter what you choose, which is your next thing that you want. So when you write that list, the process you got to build a strong fill in the blank, in your case, body and mind, that same process is, to me, it's exactly identical when you build wealth or when you build healthy relationships or when you build a new business or when you build a flower garden in the backyard. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a perfect kind of way to look at it is, you know, you kind of put your mind and body into some a position to where you're ready to grow. And then when you're ready to grow, then you can grow these other things and do these other things. And you're right, like talking about relationships and stuff like that, how it's probably improved. I find myself just saying hi to strangers, just being friendly. I don't know why. I don't like people that much.
I know. No, I don't. But I listen. I
But
totally.
it's interesting.
Oh,
You don't know who you're going to meet, and you don't know what kind of conversation you could come up with. One of the things I love what we talked about today, and kind of recapping some stuff is just saying, you know, where are your risk and what's the reward from things, and fail small. That was and what reminded me of that is the whole aim small, miss small.
Yeah,
You may not hit it bullseye, but you didn't miss by much, and you learned, and you get to reset the sights
got
and
it.
try to hit the bullseye. So it's the same thing, like failing small. I think that's a perfect analogy kind of for this whole conversation. Is the big risk is this, but if you take the small risk, you'll learn each time and you'll eventually get there. It's like I can't wish myself upstairs, but I can take the steps, and it's each step is a time.
This is the lab.
Yeah.
We've not ever gotten into that detail, which we'll have to at some point on that real methodology. This thing is the lab. It's the experiment of what elements can I put in here to not blow the place up, but I know I want to make a better thing. I want to make a better concoction, which will make me better, which will make the people around me better. It is what we're trying to do here. You have it. I think you gotta, and I do too, have to put it in different realms and stop thinking about it differently.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, this what we're doing, I think a lot of it is just self-learning for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to get a lot out of it, and we're just hoping like maybe somebody else does, and um, maybe we're hitting kind of a little button on some people. Like, man, what are they doing? What are they talking about? And how are they trying to get to wherever they're going to go? Because I think you don't want to just be comfortable, because being comfortable means you're kind of just dying. But to continue to strive for that is a good thing.
Yeah.
You
What's
don't have to be perfectly comfortable. Just keep working, and I think that failing small is beautiful. That's
yeah.
and that's with everybody. That's with our kids. That's with whoever is listening, talking about this. Fail small every day, because you're going to learn something from it.
And it'll allow you to make those big jumps later. Because the more small steps, the more small failures you will have the confidence and the ability and the resources to be able to really jump off there, because you created that parachute with those failures. Really, that's what gets you to the bottom or to the top of a skyscraper, jetpack or parachute. I want to have them both in the same bag, right? But I
Mhm.
get those through failures. And I don't. I'm gonna do this. I don't think we've done this before. I'm gonna challenge us both to come back on the next episode and talk about the tiniest risk we took. I want to lean into some of that of ourselves. I don't want to just ask people to do certain things or think certain ways. This is going to challenge us both to start the next episode with some tiny thing that we did, or some big thing. I don't know. Buy a boat.
Yeah.
Buy a boat.
No.
Buy a boat company that sells boats. I don't know. Do whatever you want to do. Something you did to whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's something or something you talked about with somebody in your family or friends. Some risk that they took.
And mine or your risk may not seem risky to somebody else, and that's okay,
That's right.
because my hard thing to do is different than your hard thing to do.
And
And
that's the whole point of that. Is what I want to hear too are the things that people say. Here's the risk I took, and I'm telling you, it could be somebody saying I had oatmeal this morning instead of cornflakes, and I'm telling
yeah,
you that is a real damn risk for somebody.
yeah,
And
it
I'm
is.
I'm being very serious. That is a huge jumping outside the box for somebody, and that's as big of a win as somebody saying, "Hey, I decided to." You know what, leave the company and start this business that I was going to do for a long time. I just think people putting those small things will empower other people to say, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate what people are going through. That's where you get the how are you doing when somebody's coming out of Kroger, because hopefully that tiny hello will inspire them to do something good for somebody or for themselves.
Yeah.
Uh, Dude, I appreciate this one.
Yeah, man, it's good.
This is
It's
good.
good. Now we have a build up to the next one. Everybody's
take
going
a
to start getting excited.
risk.
They'll be having like beer pong parties over there for our
I
episodes.
love it. They're good dudes, and listen, they're smart. They all take their appropriate risks, and I learn from them too. I think that's the nice part about it. So, what else you got, man?
That's it, man. I'm good.
When I appreciate it, take some risks, grow. I appreciate the lab, um, and I can't wait for the next week.
Yep. Cool. Love it.